We're going to take you through the closing bell and all the pivotal key moments on radio and YouTube and TV in a global simulcast.
There you go.
Well, whatever. Anyway, there was a rally, guys. It's the best day for the S&P on a Fed day since 2022. Whew.
I know. It's kind of interesting. I love the commentary. A little bit hawkish. Is it a little bit dovish? I mean, equity markets definitely moved up higher on it. We saw yields back off as we were just kidding with Ira Jersey in our conversation. I'm already looking forward to the May meeting to see kind of where the Fed goes. A lot to get to, though, before we get there.
Still off our best sessions, our best levels of the day. Interesting to see this, at least equity market reaction, given the uncertainty that Jay Powell communicated during the press conference. It doesn't seem like he really understands or knows where the economy is or where it's going. Mike McKee said as much post-press conference.
Yeah, my takeaway from this news conference, even though he sounded really reassuring, he looked really reassuring, was that nobody knows anything. They don't know. They don't have a clue. In the same way that perhaps the president himself is not quite sure what he's going to do next.
What I did find interesting is that he finally sort of walked through what would make this tariff headlines become less noise, and that's that housing services inflation, not through goods, not the non-housing services inflation, but very specifically, so something to definitely watch. All right, there we go. We are wrapping up the closing bell on this Fed Wednesday. S&P up by a full 1 percentage point, the best day for the S&P on a Fed day since 2022. The Dow following suit up by about 1%, and the Nasdaq outperforming up by 1.5%. Guys, it's broad, equal weighted, mid cap and small caps.
Gotta love that. Just digging a little bit deeper into the S&P 500. Most names in the index higher today, guys. 367 actually gaining some ground. 133 to the downside. 3 scarlet unchanged.
All right, and the relief in equities, you see it across the board here. Let's look at the IMAP, which splits up the S&P 500 into 11 groups. All green, although it should be noted that the defensive sectors, healthcare, real estate, consumer staples, utilities, those are the laggards. They've gained the least. In fact, those 3 groups, staples, real estate, and healthcare, basically unchanged to up 0.1%.
And they were just getting going. All right, so much for that. All right, let's get to some of the individual gainers. Boeing, guys, number one gainer in the S&P 500, a gain just shy of 7%. Company came out, said cash outflows are likely to be smaller than forecast this quarter, with cash burn, quote, could be in the hundreds of millions of dollars, better than expected. They went on to talk about their factory operations stabilizing, production of the 737 going pretty well, and a shadow factory for finishing mostly built 737s likely to be wound down this summer. So some good news out of certainly a company name that has been really pummeled for a while. Taking a look at Roku, up about 7%, up as much as 10% earlier in the session, but still finishing with a gain of more than 7%. This stock jumping after Trump Media and Technology Group launched its Truth Plus streaming app on the Roku channel store. And I should point out, this is despite Guggenheim coming out and cutting its price target to $100 a share from 115, stock closing at around 72 a share. One more for you. Signet Jewelers, man, on a tear, up nearly 25% at its highs today, finishing with a 17% gain. The owner of K Jewelers touting a solid start to the fiscal first quarter, issued an annual outlook that Citi's analysts described as better than the market feared. You might remember, company had a tough time the holiday season. It was pretty weak. That led Wall Street to slash expectations for the company. Company does, though, say sales are rebounding after that weak holiday season. Stock, though, Tim, still down about 30% year to date.
Hey, guys, I just want to jump in real quick, though, because
Five
Below is out with earnings, and that's always a fun one to look at, Tim. So we're looking at the full year for forecast for net sales, actually coming in pretty well. You're looking at the high end, about $4.33 billion. And on earnings, you're looking at about $4.52 a share on the high end. All of that, at least on the net sales, that beat estimates. The earnings fell a little bit short. For the first quarter, though, same thing. It seems a pretty solid quarter for net sales as well as EPS. Five Below, though, it's like it has all that cheaper stuff. I definitely go there to shop for my daughter's birthday. So it's going to be interesting to see sort of what they say on tariffs on the call.
All right, Five Below shares kind of bouncing around a little bit in the after hours. I do want to get to some of the decliners in today's session. Intel actually snapped its 5-day winning streak, falling by 7% today. This after a TSMC board member dismissed a report that TSMC had pitched to major U.S. chip makers about taking stakes in a joint venture that would operate Intel's factories. We're talking about Liu Qin-Cheng, the minister of Taiwan's National Development Council, also a board member at TSMC, said that he could state, quote, with certainty that the TSMC board has never discussed a collaboration between TSMC and Intel. This is according to a report by Taiwan's official central news agency. Still, Intel shares up 20% so far this year. I'm also watching what's going on in one pharmaceutical company, Gilead. Shares falling today by 2.5%. This after the Wall Street Journal reported that the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services is weighing plans to cut federal government funding for domestic HIV funding, citing unidentified people familiar with the matter. Analysts said that while the headlines were negative for Gilead, there wouldn't be too great of a hit because the potential cuts wouldn't impact access to those drugs. Gilead does make drugs that prevent and treat HIV, such as Truvada and Descovy. And finally, General Mills shares fell today. The company did report third quarter organic sales declined by more than expected. Shares fell by 2%. It's yet another a sign that the slowing consumer spending is happening in the U.S. The company, Alex, also cutting its full year forecast and its organic net sales forecast for the full year.
So is it Gilead or Gilead? Just asking.
I don't know.
We don't know. We're
I
just,
said Gilead.
I think it's.
I said Gilead.
Is it Scarlett Masser?
Oh, shade has been thrown.
Yeah.
I received that. I accept that shade.
Wow.
That was great. Especially because I didn't even know I said it.
San Francisco has not softened him, huh?
No, it just hardens him up there.
Yeah.
Still the techie stuff.
He's a mean New Yorker in San Francisco.
He's a mean New Yorker.
Everybody here is smiling all the time.
He's from California, guys.
Yeah, but he's lived here for long.
Now he's in Park Slope where all the mean people live. All right, taking a look at the bond market, guys. It's a bit across the board, particularly in the front end. You have yields down by about 6 basis points. I mean, it's hard to make a lot out of this action, right? I mean, is it just removal of the bad news? We're removing any risks of a rate hike. We're also not seeing an economy that falls off the cliff. Like Jay Powell, clearly still optimistic about the state of the economy despite the risks. But take that for what you will. Also, positioning has been quite different also.
All right, guys, now that the Fed meeting is over, I think it's time for us to go on a road trip, a little class trip of this simulcast and go to Denny's because they've got a new breakfast offering, limited time only, the Nvidia breakfast bite. And it's about 4 sausages. You wrap it around a pancake, dip it in syrup, and Tim, right? It's just like Jensen liked it.
Wait.
Yeah, remember, do you guys know this, right? The origin story for Nvidia apparently happened in a Denny's in Silicon Valley.
No,
so
tell us.
Denny's for years has been really harking back to that moment.
Or milking it.
For promotional materials. And this is no exception, especially during NVIDIA's GTC week. You can see Jensen there at Denny's flipping some pancakes.
So this is their newest collab with Jensen Huang? Like it went from like social media influencers to Jensen Huang?
I don't know if Jensen, I don't know to what extent NVIDIA, I don't know.
It did happen at the GTC conference,
look,
and there are no chips in them, like no
and he did say
chips
in the press release. In the press release, he said, "Denny's will always be a special place for me. It's where I learned that no task was too small to do well."
Wait, refresh. So what is it? It's sausage.
4 sausages. You can wrap it in Denny's buttermilk silver dollar pancakes. Then you can dip it in some syrup.
Yeah,
Totally
yeah.
healthy.
All right, I'm into that. But
I'm into that.
interesting that it's called the Nvidia Breakfast Bites, BYTES.
Right.
BYTES.
Nice. Okay.
All right, you know, the other story that we're paying attention to.
Are you going to be serious?
Yes,
It
I
is.
am.
I'm sorry. The story's cool.
Well, we were excited about this morning when we saw it, which is Oppenheimer downgrading Goldman Sachs, Carlyle, and Jefferies because they're saying that the anticipated boom in M&A has not materialized and may never materialize. Now that it's pretty clear President Trump is really pursuing tariffs as opposed to some of the other let's just say loosening of regulation that a lot of people had anticipated.
Right, the phase 2, which would be lower taxes, as well as the deregulation. I appreciate this is not like a fun chat, but the idea that we're waiting for this M&A for a while in the animal spirits, if it doesn't materialize, not just pushed out, but doesn't materialize, like isn't that a big re-rating of what we need to think about?
Listen, these
What
private
about that
equity
32
guys. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Tim.
Yeah. Well, what about the $32 billion Google Wiz acquisition that was announced?
That's
earlier
reviving
this week?
something that they were looking into. That's number one.
Yeah,
a
but they
nice
were reviving
premium.
it. One of the reasons they,
But
one of the
the
reasons they
idea
were
that no one
reviving
can-
it is because
But-
a regulatory environment that might be friendlier, right?
But no one can plan ahead right now because nobody knows what's going to happen, right? Nobody knows anything. Yields are kind of all over the place, right? And nobody knows what the environment's going to be like. So they're all just like, oh, I'm paralyzed. I got to wait to see what happens.
Yeah, I was going to say, like all the private equity guys. I mean, M&A bankers have been waiting for Trump to be in the White House, thinking everything was going to be easier, we're going to get deals done, and then all of a sudden it's like all this volatility, and nobody wants to do anything. So yeah, it is. All right, it's a good story.
It is a good story. We've been
Not
kind
as
of
good
waiting
as
for
the
the first
pancake story.
for the first thing to fall fall, and it feels like this is it. This is the first downgrade here.
No, it's a really good point, and we'll see certainly when we get into the next earnings season, right?
Yep.
Like what the context is and the commentary. All right, guys, we are going to do this road trip. I could totally see us all getting into this sandwich.
Nvidia breakfast bites. Here we come.
All right, that's a wrap. Across platform on radio, TV, YouTube, and Bloomberg Originals. We call it the closing bell. We'll see you again, same time, same place tomorrow.